Fox Sports 1 correspondent Jenna Laine has more from camp.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have begun their preparations for Game 1 of the preseason, and it'll be the first time this team takes the field under new head coach Lovie Smith. And while most people know what to expect from a Lovie Smith defense, there's a certain element of intrigue and mystique surrounding Jeff Tedford's offense. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a team ravaged by injuries. Since the season began, they've lost 5 starters on defense, including all-pro defensive tackle Gerald McCoy, who suffered a broken hand against the Rams on Sunday. They also lost middle linebacker Mason Foster, who suffered a shoulder injury. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers began OTAs this week with their first practice that was open to the media today. And unlike previous segments of the offseason program, where guys are relegated to mere classroom instruction and positional drills, they actually get a chance to line up offense versus defense. They didn't start him from the get-go. They were committed to bringing him up the right way. They said, you know what, we're going to let you sit back on the bench and learn, and when you're ready, we're going to put you out there. Some people disagreed with that. They thought that as the 3rd overall pick, he should have been out there right away. Now, interestingly enough, he admitted today that at this time last year, he wasn't so sure that Jameis Winston was going to be the guy. And he said he really needed the process to play out to be able to make that decision. And if you ask some of the scouts that were in attendance this week, who stood out? A number of them will tell you that Caputo did. Not just because of his physical ability, although it was impressive, but because of his intensity and his focus. And as one scout told me, this guy was on a mission. And he actually went to head coach Willie Taggart and said, you know what, coach, I don't know if I'm cut out for this position. And Coach Taggart said to him, Jamie, give it a chance. And since then, he is a big reason why this USF Bulls team is now bowl eligible for the first time since 2010 and has a shot at the AAC title. After weeks and weeks of Bucs head coach Lovie Smith saying that his Bucs team wasn't quite Tennessee Titans ready, it was do or die time for the Bucs today. And unfortunately, only one team came to play today, and only one team appeared to be ready, but that wasn't Lovie Smith's Buccaneers. In fact, they struggled in all facets of the game. You can't really get a true evaluation of these guys in the trenches. The thing that they're working on the most right now is refining these guys' technique. But of course, the real test is going to be when they bring everybody together for that mandatory 3-day minicamp. That'll be here before you know it. It was a very busy day here today at One Buc Place. Tight end Tim Wright was traded away to the New England Patriots in exchange for 6-time Pro Bowl guard Logan Mankins, a guy who immediately upgrades an offensive line that surrendered 10 sacks this preseason. During his press conference, and this is just my personal opinion, you know, I love it when a guy comes up there and just exudes the confidence. I felt like in his case, he forced it a little bit. I don't feel like he needed to go up there and show it because, you know what, I think he already kind of has that natural confidence with him. But, you know, I love the fact that he came up, he took that podium, he was loose, he was relaxed, he smiled, he was open and honest about things. Today is opening day for baseball, and that pretty much means it's a national holiday for fans all across the country, including Rays fans. In fact, hundreds have gathered here at Ferg's across the street from the Trop in anticipation for today's game. And I caught up with a lot of them to find out what their expectations are for the upcoming season. Next, we bounced on over to the beach where the U of L cheerleaders won the tug-of-war contest, then the Southern Miss band won the chicken wing eating contest, and then the mascots duked it out in a dance-off. And I don't think either of these guys are ready to start on day one, but they're both likely going to be thrust into that position, and both of them are going to struggle. And the one thing that was emphasized to me, and I agree with it, is that we need to accept the fact that Andrew Luck is not the new standard. He is an outlier. We are not going to see a guy like him for a long time.
You just think about the baggage that this team had to kind of deal with the departure of Marty St. Louis, and then too, Steven Stamkos had been injured, and so just all of those things together, I think that team was just so worn out by the time the season's end came that's why they were one and done.
And he's actually a guy that fashions himself after a Cam Chancellor. And interestingly enough, I had mentioned that on Twitter to Cam Chancellor. Chancellor responded back and says, yeah, I feel him. He sees it. It's different. Hybrid. So I thought that was pretty cool that Jack earned some praise from a guy that he's really tried to emulate over the years. If you're a fan of the Tampa Bay Rays, then you know, well, it's no secret what Kevin Kiermaier can do. All those home runs that he robbed countless players of, including Manny Machado up in Baltimore, well, thankfully, Major League Baseball recognized it too. And earlier this week, they awarded him a Gold Glove. You know, the one thing I would say is that we're kind of in this weird phase right now in sports where, you know, Michael Phelps, because he's on the decline, you know, he was dominant in his sport. Michael Jordan was dominant. LeBron kind of in those likes, but we really don't have that dominant athlete. Now tomorrow they are going to have the day off, so it'll give those guys a chance to rest after 2 consecutive days in pads. They'll be back at it on Thursday. Practice begins at 2:30. With Sports Talk Florida, I'm Jenna Laine. A number of NFL players put on camps this time of year, but this one is extra special because it focuses exclusively on kids in the foster care system. In fact, 50 kids from throughout the Tampa Bay area, ages 13 to 17, took part in today's camp. And while the goal is to help them learn football skills and learn different positions, possibly give them the confidence to be able to try out for their school teams, it's also about developing life skills too, leadership training, teamwork ability. And those are very, very critical already for adolescents, but even more important for this at-risk population. For Tampa Bay Buccaneers fullback Jenna Laine, putting on this camp and starting his Lane of Hope Foundation has been personal.
I grew up with, similarities to where, I kind of figured if I was wanted or if anybody thought of me, that type of situation. And, these kids are, they going through situations to where they can go left, and that's what I'm trying to prevent. And all they need is just a little love and somebody just to care.
So we wanted to help foster kids, and while he may not have been in foster care himself growing up, he didn't have it easy at home and was raised by his grandparents. Football played a big role in helping his self-esteem, as well as providing structure and stability. He hopes it'll do the same here for these teens who face tough odds. A study conducted at the University of Chicago found that of 23 and 24-year-olds who have aged out of foster care, less than half will be employed and almost 25% will end up homeless. What's worse, nearly 60% of young men end up convicted of crime and 80% arrested, with only 6% having a 2 or 4 year degree. But being part of a team and physical activity can help keep them on the right path. And of course, the chance to rub elbows with some NFL players goes a long way. It helps them know that they matter, it helps them feel validated, and it lets them know that they can overcome any obstacles that stand in their way.
When you think of foster kids, a lot of people think of those kids as, like people that didn't want them, the parents didn't want them. So, they go kind of through like things that we do go through with football when the team don't want you and, you feel rejected and things like that. So me and Jaworski thought it would be cool, to do something different. You don't hear about a lot of people doing things for foster kids.
Some of them didn't even know how to play. So it was good just to show them how to play and everything. Mostly everybody was just happy, man. Just happy just to be out there, People just had fun. I just try to get them hyped up. Someone was down because I don't think someone really liked football, but I just try to tell them it's a fun sport and they should play it.
It can do a lot, Like I said, football is a very demanding sport. It kind of puts you in your place. It make you respect a lot of things. It make you obey. It make you, overall good person. It puts you in connections with good people, and it can change your life.
I talked to a number of kids here today, and they've all got big plans for the future. One told me that he's wanting to try out now for his high school football team this coming year, and he hopes to play running back. He was actually asking Jaworski how he can grow big muscles like him so he can be just as powerful out on the football field. And I talked to another camper who says that he hopes to take his GED test in a few weeks and wants to go to community college to become a chef. And while it's no secret that these young men face a lot of obstacles when they leave here today, one thing is for certain. They felt empowered, and most of all, today they felt loved. And right now, that's really all that matters. Reporting from Oldsmar with Sports Talk Florida, I'm Jenna Laine. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were back in the building today after a few days of rookie camp, and it gave an opportunity for them to get some work in with the veterans. Meanwhile, we got a chance to talk to some of the offensive coaches to get their thoughts on how things went in camp, and in particular, how things were looking with Jameis Winston. Both as quarterbacks coach Mike Bajakian and the offensive coordinator Dirk Cutter have said they're most impressed with his ability to retain so much information.
He's sure, we were able to cover some stuff in the evaluation process. I'd meet with him and install certain concepts and certain protections and things like that. So his recall was very good there. What I've noticed is he studied. We gave him the playbook information the day after we drafted him, and he's worked hard to comprehend that. So I know what I've covered with him prior to him being here in the evaluation process. Well, he's already got a very firm grasp of things that we never covered.
Now, what about all those interceptions? He threw 18 his final year at Florida State.
We got a lot to work on. Now, there's going to be interceptions. Okay, there's all of a sudden the ball's batted, it's tipped, it hits the receiver right in the shoulder pads, pops up. I mean, there's crazy stuff that's going to happen. But avoidable turnovers, like unforced errors in tennis or something like that. I mean, we can't have unforced errors. I mean, we give away possessions, no good. I mean, our defense is going to do a great job of taking it away. We got to do a great job of protecting it.
And how have the veterans taken to him? Are they seeing him as a leader?
Oh yeah, I mean that's just how Jameis is. There's nothing fake about Jameis. Okay, he is naturally gifted as a leader. He's got a certain charisma about him, especially on the field. I think players are naturally attracted to him. I think players like playing with him. And he comes out here and he has a good time. But he's also learning, and he's also a rookie.
One thing that Bajakian also emphasized is that because Winston can process information so quickly, he feels the Bucs can run an up-tempo offense if they choose to. And Cutter wanted to put some things into perspective for us so that we could perhaps temper our expectations. He said that the veterans are now on their 5th install, on their 2nd round of it, and the rookies are now on 5 days being here, and they're still on their 1st install. So he emphasized to us that this is not a 100-yard sprint, and this is a marathon. They're going to bring their guys along accordingly, and that includes Winston. Reporting from One Buck Place with Sports Talk Florida, I'm Jenna Laine. Today, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers announced not one, but 2 new members of the Buccaneers Ring of Honor, Doug Williams and Mike Allstott, with this marking the first time in franchise history that they're inducting 2 Ring of Honor members in the same season. But Williams in particular is very significant because fans here in Tampa Bay have long felt very badly about the way Williams was treated by then-owner Hugh Culverhouse. And so I asked Williams a little bit about that and what did it mean for him, the fact that so many fans here in Tampa Bay continued to root for him, even though he was playing in a different uniform.
As a player, the ultimate goal is to make sure you go out and perform every day, and you want to make sure that the fans like what you put out there. And the only way you're going to do that, you play your heart out. And that's what I tried to do. The younger generation, to be honest with you, it's been 37 years ago. The guys and ladies that is in their early, mid-40s probably wouldn't understand. But I think if you go to the older fans and realize that when they went to the stadium to see the Buccaneers, they saw one guy for sure that was going to give whatever it had to give along with the other guys. But it's a good feeling to come back to know there's so many people that were still pulling for Doug Williams. And that's a great feeling.
Well, and 2, Jimmy Giles said a few years ago when I talked to him that when you were in that Super Bowl, he felt like he was on the receiving end of every one of those passes. What did it mean to you to have those types of relationships stay with you even after you left Tampa?
Well, Jimmy and I always had a good relationship, and I think when I left Tampa, we was in the process of building a pretty good football team. We was a young football team, good football team. And I think a lot of them felt like they kind of ripped the heart out of the football team when I left. And see, that's where it goes, where a lot of people don't understand when you make certain decisions based on how you feel up top. You don't know what it feels like in the dressing room and down bottom. And I think that's what they underestimated.
And, you mentioned those decisions and everything. What were your feelings then, and what are they now after so many years have passed, and now that things have kind of come full circle, and you've been back in this building already more than once, you've worked here, but now that you're coming back here and you're being recognized and truly being recognized for your work?
Well, to be honest with you, there's no bad blood in this building. When Tony Dungy came here to coach, man, I was pulling for Tony Dungy. When John Gruden came here, who his daddy was one of my assistant coaches, I was pulling for John Gruden and had an opportunity to work for him, So it's no hard feeling, but to be able to come back here and be part of something that we did a long time ago and be able to walk in the stadium and your name is around, I say that in itself speaks volume of what you meant to the organization and the community.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this question because you mentioned Jameis Winston and how you're mentoring him right now. And, aside from just what you accomplished winning the Super Bowl, you also accomplished a lot historically and socially, and that was being the first black quarterback to lead your team to a Super Bowl. One, is that something that you're still comfortable carrying the torch with? And 2, is that something that we still need to bring up now that we've had so many quarterbacks that have come through the league and have achieved so much success?
I think we passed that stage. 2 years ago, a guy by the name of Russell Wilson won the Super Bowl. Nobody talked about it, which was a great thing, But in Jameis' case, I don't feel like I'm mentoring as much as being a friend to him. And, if you want to sound stuff off me, that's fine. But we talk about a lot more things than just football.
And so do you think now, too, as kind of adding to that, you work in a front office, is that something you'd like to see more of, seeing more diversity in that area, too?
Well, I've always been one to say diversity is big in the National Football League, whether or not it's in the front office, on the sideline. I think we still need work to do.
Now, the official ceremony for Williams will take place December 6th in a game against the Falcons. But going back to Jameis Winston for a little bit, I thought it was really interesting that Doug Williams said that when he first got to Tampa, the first person that called him was Jameis Winston. The two of them got wings at, where else? Leroy Selmans. Reporting from One Buck Place with Sports Talk Florida, I'm Jenna Laine. Today is opening day for baseball, and that pretty much means it's a national holiday for fans all across the country, including Rays fans. In fact, hundreds have gathered here at Ferg's across the street from the Trop in anticipation for today's game. And I caught up with a lot of them to find out what their expectations are for the upcoming season.
We got a great new manager. There's a lot of confidence in Kevin Cash. I think all the moves we made in the offseason made sense for one reason or another. Today is the proving ground. Today is the day we see where, the rubber hits the road. So I'm all about it. I mean, the Rays got lean and mean this year.
A lot of new faces. I'm optimistic. With new things come new challenges, but it also comes new opportunities, and I think it's going to be a pretty awesome season. I'm always optimistic. You got to be in Tampa, right?
Is it a bad omen that Alex Cobb's starting the season injured?
I don't look at omens. I'm just optimistic. I'm going to keep optimistic and keep going forward, yeah.
What's your prediction, Kanika?
She's always for the Rays. Always for the Rays.
So what do you do with the dog during the game?
Well, when they let us take her in, we actually take her in with us to the dog days. But otherwise, we hang out here in front of Ferg's and drink our beers and have a good time.
What was the loss that hurt the most?
I think the pitching staff is taking the biggest hit with injuries that's going on. The ace is gone, relying on younger players to step up. It's going to be tough. I think it's going to be the biggest challenge for them. Is definitely going to be the pitching.
So you're probably the only Rays fan, since you're a Tigers fan too. You're probably the only Rays fan that was okay with that David Price deal last year, huh?
Absolutely. David Price is a great he's a great quality to the Tigers, and he's starting today. I haven't looked at my phone yet. I don't know how he's doing, but he's definitely a great ace to have in the ball club.
Yeah, so I got to ask, Michael, it's a Rays and an Orioles game. What are you doing out here in Reds gear?
I live down here. I've lived here for 4 years. I do support the Rays, but I like the Reds too. This is what happened to throw one today, but 99% of the time they're not playing each other. I like the Rays too.
There's so many people that are out here today. What do? Do they get PTO for this? Do they take a vacation day, a sick day? How does this work? For people that couldn't get out here today, how do they get out of work for opening day next year?
You gotta get your real estate license.
Yeah, be
Get
your own
real
boss.
estate license. Be your own boss.
Or leverage your PTO. You got to leverage your PTO.
Does it scare you at all the fact that Alex Cobb is hurt yet again to start the season?
A little bit, of course. I mean, Alex Cobb's our man. If he's not leading us off today, you know what? I'll take Archer as a second man in charge.
So give me the truth here about this baseball team. I mean, there's been so many changes. I can't remember an offseason where there's been so many. What are your expectations for the team this year?
Truthfully, being honest now, in Madden we trust. So, the guy's gone. I don't know. I don't know anything about this new guy. I mean,
sub 500
sub
team.
500. I think we're 75, maybe 80 wins max. I mean, our division's always tough.
And are you hopeful too that Kevin Cash will implement some of the same types of motivational tactics as Joe and maybe bring in some more zoo animals?
I would love to see more animals. More animals, the better. That's how it's got to be. That's more animal days too, definitely.
Hooray!
Hooray!